we now talk to Phivolcs Director Yusek Renato Solidum. Thank you, Yusek, for taking our call this morning.
Good morning.
Sir, could you tell us more about this earthquake that happened earlier just off of Davao? It was pretty strong at 7.3. Which areas felt it the strongest, sir?
Well, the highest intensity that were reported to us would be intensity 5 in Governor Renato, Mati, Baganga, and Lupon in Davao Oriental, as well as the cities of Tagum and Panabo, and the towns of Carmen and Nabunturan in Davao del Norte, and including General Santos City, Alabel, and Malungon in Sarangani. Davao City felt it at intensity 4. By the way, we released earthquake information number 2 just a while ago, and we downgraded the magnitude to 7.1. And the epicenter is a little bit further southeast of Governor Renato.
All right, so actually 7.1 na po siya, hindi 7.3. But as you said, intensity 5 was felt in some areas. Are we expecting a lot of damage from this?
Not really. At intensity 5, in many of the past earthquake events, we don't really see significant damages here. But because of daylight, perhaps the local governments might inspect furthermore in the areas near the epicenter to check if indeed there were weak structures that were affected. But so far, the reports are good that only intensity 5 were experienced, and so far no damages have been reported to us.
That is definitely good to know. Now, sir, the quake had a depth of about 69 kilometers. Can you explain to us how the depth affects the strength of the earthquake?
Well, the strength of the earthquake, which is actually either the magnitude or the intensity, can actually be influenced by the following. When it comes to magnitude, it's just simply the energy released by the earthquake. But what is felt by people on the surface or on the ground is dependent on the magnitude. But also very important is the distance of the earthquake to the area. And the distance is influenced not only by the horizontal distance or the epicenter, but the depth of the earthquake. If the earthquake is deep, therefore the thickness of the rocks that it has to pass through will be quite thick, and the rocks absorb the energy of the earthquake as it passes through. So the thicker the rock or the deeper the earthquake is, then more energy will be absorbed. Hence, for moderate to deep earthquakes, the strength of the shaking that will be felt will be much less than what was released below the ground. So that is why, in this case, the depth was actually now around 39 kilometers, but still moderate. But the distance to the ground is a little bit far. Hence, the shaking was not as strong if compared to a shallow earthquake, more so if the earthquake epicenter would be on land.
Right. Now, this happened just off the coast, or is there any kind of tsunami threat?
None. There was no tsunami event that was significant. We have our sea level monitoring stations checked, and there were no significant waves, although there were theoretically very minor detection, like 4 centimeters, but people would not notice that.
Right. Now, aftershocks are expected, as is usual. Would you recommend any kind of evacuation at this point, Yusek?
No recommendation for evacuation. Aftershocks are expected. So far, we have around 18 aftershocks plotted. More, of course, not plottable because these are small events. What is important, though, would be that people should really check their houses and buildings, see if they can further strengthen it or anchor things that might fall or topple down. And they have to be aware of where they should go during the earthquake event and after, so that they will be safer from the earthquake shaking. However, for those in the coastal area, they have to identify higher grounds where they can evacuate immediately after a major event. And if there are signs that indeed there can be a tsunami, one is the strong earthquake, the second is the sudden retreat of seawater from the shoreline to offshore.
So definitely preparedness is key. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Phivolcs Director Yusek Renato Solidum.